Hello, welcome to part 3 of setting up our NCBE PCR kit. So each student should have a green tube which has primer 1 in it, a purple tube which has primer 2 in it, and an orange tube which has sterile water in it. They should each all have a tube which contains the PCR bead in it. And obviously the tube which still has in it the washed FDA disc. Now you will need a micro syringe, which comes along with our electrophoresis base unit, and the clear tips which come with this kit. Now, as you can see with the student guide, these are graduated tips and have both a 10 microliter mark on it and a 2 microliter mark. So for the first bit, where you are going to be putting your primers into the tube with the PCR bead, you are going to be sucking it up to the 10 microliter mark, so that is the upper of the two graduations. So carefully using your micro syringe then, you take up primer 1 from the green tube, so nice and carefully up to that top line, and then very carefully put that into the tube containing the PCR bead. Now if you put the tip onto the side of the tube and then dispense that primer 1 into your tube, don't touch the PCR bead with your tip because it can get stuck onto the tip. So then what you can do is just very gently tap it and the liquid will go down onto the PCR bead and that will start to dissolve. So you then want to change your tip and you want to get a clean one. Now you want to try not to touch the bottom of the tips. So here I'm just showing you then, so 10 microliters then of primer 2 as well. So exactly the same way into the tube on the side and then tap it down so that it goes onto the PCR bead. So lastly then, once you've got primer 1 and primer 2 in with your PCR bead, you then want to transfer 4 microliters of the sterile water. So in order to do that then you're going to do 2 lots of 2 microliters. So this then is up to the lower of the graduations on the clear tip. So once again then, very carefully into the tube with the PCR bead and the primers, and then repeat with the second 2 microliters. So you transfer that over as well, and then that has now got everything in it that you need for your PCR mix. So what you want to do is pop the lid on then, and then give that a really good flick to mix it and make sure that the PCR bead dissolves properly. Now this usually dissolves pretty quickly, but if you need to leave it for a minute or two just to make sure that it is dissolved, that's fine. Once it is dissolved, it will be completely clear and there should be no foam or bubbles. So now what you need to do is transfer the FDA card disc that you washed earlier into the tube with the PCR mix. Now you can use forceps as it says to in the student guide, but what I actually tend to do is use the yellow tip as I am here that we used earlier to do our wash steps. So what you can do is you can just hook it up onto the side of the tube and then very carefully transfer it into the tube with your PCR mix. And I actually find this slightly easier than using forceps, but completely up to you which you find easier. So I then, as I am here, just very carefully then transfer that over into the tube with the PCR mix. So once you've transferred that into the tube that you've got your primers and your dissolved PCR bead in, you then need to give it a good tap to make sure that the disc is submerged in that PCR mix because you want it to be submerged for the PCR itself. So this is now ready to go then for your PCR. So you are now ready to go and do your PCR, either using water baths as shown in the student guide or using a PCR machine if you have one. Tune in next time then to see how to run an electrophoresis gel with your PCR products. Thank you.